Donald Trump's government shutdown is now the third longest in American history, and the American people are feeling the shutdown pain more and more each day. Social Security offices are now closing across the country. States are warning of possible disruptions in SNAP benefits, and thousands of federal workers, thousands, folks, and our military families as well are facing immense financial uncertainty. Donald Trump couldn't care less. As the New York Times notes, unlike past presidents, Mr. Trump appears to feel little urgency to strike a deal to reopen the government. Instead, he has used the shutdown as an opportunity to further remake the federal bureaucracy and jettison programs he does not like, programs that impact you, by the way. Joining us now is Jason Johnson, MSNBC political contributor, politics and journalism professor at the Morgan State University, and host of the podcast A Word with Jason Johnson. Sarah Matthews is also back with us.
Look, I'm not surprised that the president is saying he doesn't mind the shutdown. He's the same man. You know, of course he doesn't mind the shutdown. It plays into his authoritarian hands. But every day, every week that this drags on, it's a missed paycheck. It's uncertainty for folks out there. This is what's going on. SNAP payments have been halted in Pennsylvania due to the federal shutdown. Recipients are also reminded that new federally mandated work, education, or volunteer requirements take effect November 1st and must still be reported. I will note that those work requirements are part of that Trump budget bill that passed earlier this year. I will note last year there were around 2 million SNAP recipients in Pennsylvania. That is a lot of people, Jason Johnson.
You know what, though? You know who's not affected? ICE. See, they made sure they can let people starve. They can let people use their health care. They can let students not get their scholarship money and pay for everything that's important. But ICE is still getting paid. In fact, Kristi Noem said that ICE is going to get a super check on October 22nd that will give them back pay and pay them for the next pay period. So we don't just know that Trump is an authoritarian. We know what his priorities are. I want people to starve. I want people to suffer. I don't care if they starve and suffer. But if my secret police are still working and grabbing teenagers off the street with masks, I'm good with it.
They're also paying for a big recruitment ad that is now running all across this country. So they have some funds available. Here's what I cannot riddle out, and I will sort of start with the two once and future Republicans, which is if Donald Trump is not bothered, but congressional Republicans, we know from reporting, are to varying degrees realizing this is going to be a political liability for them. They are spending a lot of time in their districts because Speaker Johnson has sent them to their districts so that they don't have to walk around Capitol Hill not doing anything. All the action's on their side. Like, they have to figure this out amongst themselves. What has to happen that Donald Trump actually starts listening to congressional Republicans on this specific question?
Sarah?
How dare you? How dare you do that to her?
That's called the pivot.
I don't think that he has a problem with this dragging out for as long as it will be. Because, look, Russ Vought and him want to purge the federal workforce of as many workers as possible. And this gives them the opportunity to do so. And we're seeing them take advantage of it. So I think he thinks that there isn't going to be as much political pain when it comes to himself being held accountable. And Donald Trump has never cared about the benefit of the Republican Party, let's be honest. So he doesn't care how this is going to affect the other congressional Republicans out there and how this could be a liability for them come the 2026 midterms. And when we get to issues like health care, even though that is something that Republicans we know are very concerned about because that's an issue that Democrats typically poll better on with voters. And so it's smart for Democrats to be centering their messaging around health care. And I think, though, that Trump thinks that they are going to win this fight if they just continue to dig their heels in. But right now, it seems like Democrats slightly have the upper hand when it comes to who the public is going to rest the blame on, because, look, they're not the ones in power. And so that's what Democrats need to do, is keep talking about health care and keep putting the blame on this administration and the Republicans in Congress, because they're the ones who hold all the power right now.
I think that's right. And I think in large measure, Alicia, to the question about how Republicans, how nervous they are, they're damn nervous. They're really concerned about what their prospects look like going into next year. They know what their internal polling is showing them. They know what their buddies on the Hill on the other side of the aisle saying to them, and particularly in those districts where they could run a little blue, they could run a little bit red, and you have a chance to pick up some seats. You're not picking up those seats now. And so it becomes a real challenge for them. And the reality for them, Jason, is simply this. To your point, Donald Trump doesn't care.
No.
And Donald Trump is like, well, look, I'm trying to fix the 26 election so you don't have to worry about your seat. I'm going to get that all worked out. You ain't got to worry about your seat. But here's where I think Democrats have, to Sarah's point, an even stronger cudgel to use. And that is what the American people are starting to experience now. Simone and Lisa and I were talking in the last a couple of segments about the impact all of this stuff, the Comey stuff, the retribution, all these things are starting to settle down on the American people like a weight they should not have to carry.
Yes.
How do you see that narratively becoming a stronger argument in addition to health care? Right? For the Democrats to make going into next year, because they can be a little sloppy at times on messaging, but I have to give them kudos.
That's right, give them some kudos.
It's because Simone keeps telling me I have to give them some kudos.
Or
right?
Baby Ruth or whatever. Some candy.
Right. No, but they've done an incredibly good job to the point that the Speaker of the House looks like a blah, 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 blah when he's having to talk about these issues on national programs.
So it's going to hurt Republicans now. We're going to see it in Virginia. Winsome Sears is going to lose. Jay Jones might even be able to squeak by if there's enough of a wave. Maybe.
David, his text messages was crazy.
It's true, but I mean, enough of a wave. But what I always say is this, with midterms or presidential elections, right, the decision tends to be made, barring something strange, about a year in advance, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas time. If this goes until Thanksgiving and we start seeing those lines as people are trying to travel during the holidays, and everyone's going to be remembered that these TSA agents, and by the way, every time I've gone to an airport in the last couple of weeks, I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really, really kind to everybody. That is where it's going to absolutely lock in. People are going to be financially destitute heading into the holiday season. They're not going to be able to travel. They're going to be angry. And the Republicans don't have an answer. Now, the Democrats, their answer, quite frankly, I think they should be more aggressive at this point. Yesterday's price ain't today's price. I would ask for more than just health care subsidies. Why not? If the Republicans are going to shoot themselves in the foot, ask for everything that you want. Closed mouths don't get fed. But at least for now, the idea of these guys are shutting down the government, still paying for ICE, but don't care about your health care, I think that's a solid message to run to 2026.
There's reporting that people are starting to ask questions about this across the country, in the states, like just are they going to get their Social Security checks? We know some checks, some offices, Social Security offices are closing. We were just talking, there are 28 Republican districts that are affected by these funding cuts that, or these project stoppages that Russell Vogt did. 6 of those districts are Republican frontliners. They say that they're just targeting Democrats with this hurt, but that's not the case, Sarah. And when they stop a project like the Army Corps of Engineers is working on real things. Like in Baltimore, it could mean port infrastructure. I think we all use the port, regardless of who we voted for at the last election.
Exactly. And that just goes to show how Donald Trump doesn't care about his own voters and supporters, because they are the ones who are being affected most by this shutdown. They are also the ones who are going to be most affected if the ACA subsidies are not extended. And so he doesn't care about bettering their lives. It's always all been about him. And he doesn't understand what it means to miss a paycheck, to not be able to keep the lights on. And it just goes to show that he is not a man of the people. He's only about himself.
But
he does not know what it feels
not
like
to pay a bill. So.
Jason Johnson, well, he does know what it is not to pay a bill, honey. He hasn't paid a lot of them. Jason Johnson, and there's documentation for that. Sarah Matthews, thank you very much.